Welcome to another video. How to trust yourself, part 2. As I said last time, there's 2 parts to this video. If you haven't watched the first one, go first, watch the first one. The part 2 is focusing on how to trust yourself if you have done something that has been hurtful towards yourself or towards other people. Maybe you followed your intuition and yet other people got hurt and now you have this distrust in you. What do you do? How do you trust yourself again? I guess in this sense, it can also be looking at repetitive behavior that you know is bad, but you keep doing it anyways. It keeps hurting you, keeps hurting other people, and you don't trust yourself. What you do with that? That is the general view that the general topic that we're looking at. So, number 1 is to notice that you will always be smarter after you've done something. Lots of people have judgments looking back. Oh, I was so stupid. Oh, I shouldn't have done this. I shouldn't whatever. Well, this is really not fair to your younger self, even if it was just 2 minutes ago, because 2 minutes ago you did not know what you know now. So be a bit more forgiving to yourself. You really haven't done anything wrong. You have just made a mistake. And we all make mistakes. If you learn to walk, well, you're gonna fall on your face. This is part of the journey, and it is part of the journey to make mistakes in regards, and that you get hurt when you fall on your face. That hurts as well, and that other people around you can get hurt. Well, this is again part of the whole game of life. So looking back at yourself and judging yourself is not fair, and I encourage you to start noticing when you're doing that. Start noticing when there's this whipping happening in your mind where you're beating yourself up over a mistake. There's nothing wrong with making mistakes. It is the way to learn. The next point that I want to make with when it comes to this behavior is, which I touched already on a little bit, is to forgive. Is to forgive yourself. And I will make a video around forgiveness in the future because it is a fairly large topic. When it comes to behavior where you've hurt yourself, again, the best way to look at it is when you forgive, you are opening up, you are taking the lessons that you have from the experience with you, but you're not holding the experience all the time within you. Meaning you're not replaying it over and over again, punishing yourself again and again. It's like you learned that touching the stove was going to hurt, and in order for you to remember, you just keep touching the stove. Well, you don't do that because you've learned your lesson. So replaying those things in your head over and over again is like keep touching the stove. Ow, ow, that hurts, that hurts, that hurts, that hurts. Yes, it really hurts. Well, you know it hurts. You don't have to replay it. So you need to go into yourself and see what is happening within you that this keeps coming up. What are the thoughts behind it? What are the loops that are playing in your mind? You may notice there's a certain continuous stream of things I say consistently. One of them is that you need to spend time with yourself, because it is really important. We're always busy looking outside and being and doing, while we need to come back and sit with ourselves, because that is when we can observe and become conscious more of certain processes that are continuously happening within us at an unconscious level, and when we sit down we become conscious of it, they can start changing. Because bringing awareness to that, bringing awareness to the loop of self-punishment or repeating something over and over again, feeling guilty about it, that is a loop, and you can break that loop by bringing awareness to that and shining light onto it from different areas. Best way to do that is through questioning. So that is one thing you can do. Now let's say you have a certain behavior that you keep doing. Maybe it's an addiction or something like that, and it keeps being harmful. What do you do then? Well, what I recommend is to go and see what is it that this behavior gives you. What's the payoff? We are always doing things that make sense to us at some level. So for example, someone is alcoholic and they keep drinking and they tell me, well, I know that the beer is not good for me. Well, they may know it up here, but do they know it in their body? Do they really know it? Because when you really know something, you stop. Like a client of mine once said, she used to be in a abusive relationships for about 30 years, and one day she woke up and she recognized what she was doing to herself, and she said, what am I doing? And in that moment, when she had this insight, something changed in her. She got out and she never went back to those kind of relationships. That's before having a history of 30 years of abusive relationships. That's a big change. So recognizing what a certain behavior does to you, and also recognizing what the payoff is for this behavior, can really help you change. Now again, I reiterate, it is not just an intellectual exercise. It is something that needs to come from within, and from a deeper place. You need to learn to be with yourself and sit with yourself, so those kind of insights can come, and they come from almost like your body. You have an embodied understanding of that insight. You can then put it into words, but something happened and shifted inside of you so that the change has occurred. And with all of those kind of behaviors that are repetitive, what is missing is a lack of consciousness. Is a lack of awareness, a lack of openness, and bringing it to the surface so it can unravel itself. That's usually what makes it repetitive, because it is in the dark, and levels are in the dark. It's like an iceberg. You have the tip of the iceberg, which is the behavior, the symptoms that are manifesting, and you have an entire iceberg underneath, which is where all the other stuff lies, right? Like certain judgments, like guilt, certain repetitive thoughts, you know, the list goes on. But that is what needs to be done if they are repetitive. So let me reiterate, what do you do when you want to trust yourself, when you're when you have hurt yourself or hurting others? Well, first of all, you need to forgive yourself. You need to see that you have learned something through this experience. What have you learned through the experience? That's not a really important question. Because you always have better vision looking back. You have 20/20 vision looking back, and you see 1 foot in front of you, because we don't know what the future brings, right? And then we go back because this is what we clearly can see, and then we judge it. So forgiveness and seeing through these loops of judgment on us is how it can how trust can reestablish. And like in the last video, that still counts for this video as well, is the inquiry into who is distrusting whom. I cannot trust myself. Well, there are 2 eyes in there. There's the I and there's the myself. So what's really going on? And what you'll see is actually there's a conflict within the mind. Thoughts up and thoughts distrusting each other. Energies playing out, and you're aware of it. But rather than you being aware of it, you have identified with it, with one or both parties, and then you get locked up. Right? And when you start to see that, and you start to untangle, and you start to become aware that this is happening, you can notice the conflict happening within you, right? You can notice that. And when you notice that, the conflict can start unravel itself. Those parties, without you favoring any of those, they can start to unravel, because that again is what awareness tends to do, is to unify things and bring them more into harmony than they were before. All right. I think that's it for this video, a bit shorter one around how to trust yourself. I hope this was useful. If it was, leave a comment, like it, subscribe, share it, whatever you usually do. And I'll see you on the next video. Thank you for your attention.